Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Scale with Joy Summit. I am here with my longtime friend, Jamie M. Swanson, and she has had an incredible experience growing her company in the photography industry and really navigating all the shifts and changes that have taken place. So, Jamie, so great to have you. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about your background and your story.
Sure. So I was working corporate when I started my business. I was an actuary, and I just started doing photography on the side kind of as a hobby. And a little ways into that, just really felt called during a specific Bible study I was part of to pursue this full time. And it scared the crap out of me. I always said I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to lose the joy of photography, but really I was just scared. But it was just so clear that God was calling me into this. And oh my, this could go in a lot of different ways, but we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
And through that, we grew really, really fast. We were able to, because my husband was still in school at the time, he was finishing it up. We had a couple of kids, and I don't remember 3 or 4 at the moment. And
why don't we just tell everybody how many you have now?
I have 6 kids, and I don't remember exactly where in the timeline this was, but we had at least 3. Might have had my 4th by that point. And I think we didn't. I think we were just at 3. And it was really scary to think about leaving an actuarial job, which is like really great pay, really great benefits, super secure because there's more jobs than actuaries. But it just like sucked the life out of my soul. And the thought of being there for the rest of my career just like totally was the most depressing thing I've ever thought of. Mm-hmm. And missing like all these firsts of my little kids. And in photography, it's not exactly the most like lucrative job out the gate, and we had this big dream of having a place for people in ministry to come and find rest for free. And so we're like, well, actuarial work will fund that. Photography business? But we just felt so called to this that we pursued it. And 19 months later, I was able to leave my full-time job, got serious, put on my big girl pants and priced appropriately, put right processes in my business and actually took it seriously. And I learned that as much as I enjoyed photography, I actually enjoyed the business side even more.
Yeah.
And we attracted a ton of attention in our marketplace because I looked at the market and I said, well, very few people are serving the high end and serving them well. And so like more money, less weddings to shoot, less competition, no brainer. Like my work is great. I can do this. It's consistent. So we just put ourselves right up on top. And I didn't go through the preamble, like we went from the bottom to like the top and just straight out the gate because we already had income coming in from my corporate job. I hadn't left it yet. And it attracted a lot of attention in our market. And so all of a sudden I had all these people saying, what have you done? Like, not in a bad way, but like, how did you get here?
Yes.
And so I love to help people. And so I started sharing. I'm like, well, I haven't been here that long, but we are full time now. We replaced our entire salary and benefits and everything. And my husband was able to start shooting with me, and it was great. And so I started a blog and I started with a pricing sheet because everyone's like, well, how do you know what to price? And well, as an actuary,
right,
that's like super easy compared to these crazy like 6-month long pricing models for workers' comp I'd work on. And so I threw something together and started selling that, and basically started an online education business for professional photographers who wanted to learn how to get clients, do pricing, just the whole work. It really focused on those beginners. And I just shared what was working for us. And that was great. I love photography. I found I liked the business side even more, but I just totally came alive teaching other people what I was learning and helping them to be able to get out of dead-end jobs they hated or do something that they loved and still make an income. And that was great until we grew really fast. I mean, I think we had around 700,000 within like the first 3 years or something like that doing that. Yeah. We just grew fast. And then all of a sudden things started to tank. Like the market became really saturated. Yeah. It was super niche when I started and it was not niche. And I had 2 babies in that time and our income just started to drop fast. And it was really terrifying. And it was really stressful. And since then, we've pivoted. We found something new to niche down into, and it's been growing fast again. We're on track to have our best year yet. We might be at our best year yet already. I'm not sure, but close. So it's going to be, it's really incredible. it's just amazing how quickly everything has turned around. And that is what brings me here right now with you.
So awesome. So I have a question about that pivot.
Yeah.
So you were recognizing, because some people might be there right now. They might be in a place where the industry, like maybe they were well positioned to begin with, but the external environment changed. You and I were both part of that in the photo industry, right? And we have created a new path. When you were like, what were some of the steps that you feel like you took to know whether or not this is something you just keep trying harder at, or if you felt called to a new path?
Oh, you know, I wasn't sure what was going on. Like I knew things were changing, but I wasn't sure what to do next. And so it was actually a pretty dark time for me, if I'm honest. And for anyone who's done the Enneagram stuff, I'm a 3, which means like I was so ashamed of my failure. I felt like that's like a definition
Personal.
of insanity. Yeah, it felt like, oh, because my business is struggling, I'm a failure. And it was really, really hard. And what I had, like the biggest thing was just taking steps forward. So I really sat back and I was at a conference, and one of the activities, which I've heard people do before, but it hit me because of the moment, was what are your superpowers? What do you really love doing, and who do you really love working with? Mine is visioneering, strategy, and community building. And I realized that it was, I wasn't really using those gifts super well. And I realized like I love photographers, but like I really love other entrepreneurs and influencers. I was at this conference with entrepreneurs, and I just was in my element. I'm like, I want to work with them. I want to do something with them. And I know everyone starts a business and then they want to teach what they've learned. That's what I did with photography. Kind of wanted to do it here, but I wasn't sure like how could I stand out in that super saturated market? What would that really look like? Did I, I actually tried to sell my photography, the Modern Tog business off. But I just, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with that. And so basically there's a couple things I did. One, I joined a business mastermind, which was a huge turning point and a massive risk because our income was way down. Yeah. And it was very expensive to be
and that was Stu's mastermind, right?
Yeah. I joined Stu's mastermind. So
Stu McLaren, for anybody who's familiar. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. I think people know. It's so good because I think many people are probably like, what are these women doing? Like these women who are growing 7- and 8-figure businesses, like who are they talking to? Who are they hanging out with? Like what, what's the secret handshake behind the scenes? Like, I think it's good. People like to know. So you went to Stu McLaren's mastermind, which is a fabulous mastermind.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm still in it now. I'm about to renew for my 3rd year.
Yeah.
And I joined that one for community because I realized that nobody really understood. I didn't have anyone other than my husband that I could really talk to who got it. Yeah. And when you talk about $100,000 launch being a massive disappointment and that going to cause you business hardship, like people don't get it. Like I made less than that as an actuary in an entire year. So. Just a different scale, and also surrounding myself by other successful people, like just kind of to raise that bar. And they're all super highly ethical. There's quite a few Christians in it, which is great. Yeah. And then it's not a Christian mastermind specifically, but he attracts just
values-based people for sure. Yeah.
Who want to make an impact. So it wasn't just make a fortune, but like truly change people's lives. And it helped me see what was going on in the online space in other industries so that it helps me stay innovative because everything changes so fast that, So anyways, I joined that. That was super helpful in getting me going and helping me regain my confidence. And I wasn't really sure exactly where I was going to take things. I thought maybe I would run a mastermind because I really love doing that and I could see my giftings being suited for it. But basically what happened was the big thing I saw was that the companies in my industry and in other industries that were really succeeding were companies that had a personal brand at the front. So I like to use this example. I love Apple. I've got the iPhone, the iPad, all the gear. It's all Apple. They play so nice together and I like them. But I will never connect with Apple as a company in the same way that I would connect with you, Laura, as a person. Right. And that people could now get 100 marketing courses. So why buy from me? What is it that sets me apart? And it's that know, like, and trust factor. And I had always avoided the personal brand stuff because I've got a family with 6 kids. And I really wanted to protect that. And I didn't want to, like, I love being the face, but I felt bad about being the face. And I'm like, do I really want to be the face? And like all that weird internal stuff. And a lot of questioning, is this the right thing to do or not? And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do this because I can see that this is a better way to connect with photographers. And I'm going to keep running with this. And then think about growing that entrepreneurial audience in the background while I'm doing what I've been doing, and see where it takes me. Because you got to stay in motion. If you stop, you can't move a parked car, so you got to keep trying things and moving.
So would you say, so I just want to summarize real quick. Would you say that dark place, because I think that's really interesting that you said that. And I think a lot of people are probably like, oh my gosh, they go through dark places too. Like I go through dark places. I thought I was the only one, because people don't talk about that. Right. So would you say that coming out was that you saw this new vision for yourself?
Well, I was still kind of in it, honestly.
Are you?
This is still in the dark places where I kind of thought this would work. But I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is kind of like the last ditch effort before like going into major management control and saying, what am I going to do? It's like, I had also gone through some other stuff that drained me of cash that were huge mistakes that I was still paying for, and like trying to build a team the wrong way, all this stuff. It was dark. It was a hard place. Yeah. And so I decided to do this personal brand stuff, and I was starting to get to know the people in the mastermind, which was really helping my just having community, people who get it, because I wasn't the only one who had gone through failure, and finding other people who were like, it's going to be okay, keep moving forward. It was awesome. But when I went, I said, okay, well, what platform am I going to do? And I'm like, well, maybe I'll do Instagram. And so I'm like, well, I need to hire a photographer, because there's no way I'm going to selfie all these things. Like, it just takes way too long. I'll just hire them to come in, shoot for a day. We'll get everything I need for like 3 months, and then I'll just batch schedule them and then not have to worry about it. And I went looking for a photographer who could do this for me. And it was kind of like that moment in Harry Potter. Are you a Harry Potter fan?
I'm not. Oh! I know. I'm probably one of the only people listening. I know. It's terrible. My kids are still like watching like Daniel Tiger. It's terrible. I know.
Oh, you got to read the books.
I'll get into it at some point.
I will tell you this. I'm a little jealous, because the first time reading those books is such a delight.
Oh, all right.
It's a super redemptive, beautiful story. You will love it. But there's a moment, so I'm kind of, it's not a huge spoiler alert, but there's a moment where Harry, as a young boy, Harry Potter, his parents have died, and he's living with his aunt and uncle, who are just like the worst. And they treat him really poorly. And like, he lives under the cupboard, under the stairs. And he starts getting all these letters. They're like flying in the house, and it's like magically like surrounding this house. And on his 11th, I think it's his 11th birthday, like his aunt and uncle flee. Like, they take him. They end up on this dark island, and it's raining, and they're in this like trying to avoid all this, because they know magic exists, and he doesn't. He just thinks that whatever. And they want to hide him from it, because his parents are magic. They are not. It's this whole weird thing. Anyways, so at this moment, like Hagrid, this big burly guy, walks in and basically kicks the door down, and he's like, here's your letter. And he delivers the letter, and it tells Harry that he's a wizard, and that he gets to go to this magical school. And then like all these things start to make sense in his life. And it's this moment where like he looks back, and it's like you can connect the dots looking back and saying, oh, that's why I'm different. That's what I'm made for. That was the moment for me. I went looking for this photographer. Nobody got what I needed. Nobody understood what I needed as an online entrepreneur and influencer. And all of a sudden I'm like, I need this. And all my friends in the mastermind need this. Like, this is huge. And I connected the dots between the difficulties that my photographers are facing in the industry booking clients, because everyone has camera phones. They don't need professional photography in the same way they used to. Right. And then the growing need for photography in the entrepreneur and influencer space. And I mean, it was just like that moment, everything fell into place, and I literally pivoted absolutely everything. That was about 19 or 20 months ago, and things have just like taken off. It's like found what I was meant to do, and it's been really fun. So that's when the light started to shine.
And so, and I love that you said that. One of the things that I love about it is that pivotal moment, and that when you felt that, you weren't afraid to invest again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a really tough thing to do. It's like you've invested in yourself to begin with. You saw it as failure. I would never see that about you, which is so funny, right? The way we view ourselves. Like, I would just say, oh, she pivoted. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people on this summit who have filed for personal bankruptcy. There are people who have gone down hard, right? And you pivoted. So what I want to do is say that as an encouragement to anyone who's listening that thinks I'm just a big failure, when really you're just reinventing. And it's totally like what so many great entrepreneurs have done. And so now you're like, but what's really cool is you weren't afraid to reinvest in yourself. Just so cool.
It was scary.
It is scary. It's like touching a hot stove twice, right? And you've got to get out of that, primal brain and get into the logical side of your brain that's like, this makes a ton of sense for me to do again.
Mm-hmm. Well, and honestly, there was a moment where I realized I was making a lot of decisions based out of fear. Like, what if this doesn't work? Like, I wouldn't want to invest in ads, or I wouldn't want to invest in stuff I knew I should, because I was afraid it wouldn't work because things had been going down for so long that I had to literally say, okay, I need to start making decisions as if this is going to be successful again, and really come at it from an abundance standpoint, and trust that what God is calling me to is actually what he wants me to walk through, whether it works or not. And so I remember it was October, and this was like a 6-month period between really at the lowest point and joining the Mastermind and finding the personal brand photography niche. And it was probably like 2 months before that, or a month and a half before that, that I realized that I had been making all my decisions out of fear, and I needed to make that mental switch. It was hard. It's really hard.
It's very hard. I've coached many people through it, and I'm sure you have too, where they're like, I can't let this person go because all my customers will leave if my employee leaves. And you're like, it's not going to happen, but I understand. Like, we make up these stories about what's going to happen when it's pretty unlikely that it will. So let's talk about your last launch. Mm-hmm. So you, as an online entrepreneur, between Market Talk, right, was your first business?
Yep.
And then personal brand photography. You've launched a lot. Mm-hmm. You've launched a lot.
Probably 20, 30 times.
20, 30 times. And for anybody who doesn't have an online business and is brick and mortar retail, this is very similar to your big event, your fourth quarter, your Black Friday, right? Is like, you've done this, and we all go into it bracing ourselves for impact. We're like, this is the time I make the most money, and I hate my life. Right?
Well, it's so much pressure because if it doesn't go well, unless you have lots of other recurring income streams, like this for us was our main income thing because we had just pivoted and simplified. And so it was it still is the main income thing right now.
Yeah. So your last launch, talk a little bit about how that was different than your previous launches. Because that was one thing that we were talking about privately. And I said, would you share this with the group? And you were like, absolutely. And I think it's so valuable because everybody has that pressure point in their business. Yeah.
So, 2 and 3 launches
I like
ago,
the sigh.
I have to go. Yeah, I know. It's very appropriate. Like, where do I even start? Last August, so about a year ago, was my highest ever launch. It was amazing. Everything has just been in alignment, growing really fast. It was well beyond anything I'd done. And then in January, we launched again and we matched that. And I was so excited coming into this launch into June, because I'm like, minimally, we're going to match that, if not more, because now, like in January, we had kind of a launch meltdown from a contractor we hired. It was a mess. And so I'm like, okay, if it was a mess and it was still like right on par with our best ever, like we're going to crush it. It's going to be amazing. And I was because I know the stuff works, whatever. And we get into it and like, it's the best. Like I do a lot of live video and my messaging, it's there and people are excited and everything's happening the way I want it to happen. And it all comes down, what we've done to launch is I literally tell people, take this script and post it on Facebook or Instagram or wherever to help you get your first 2 clients. And those will help you pay for the course that I'm doing. That's kind of it in a nutshell, but much more polished and refined. And it's worked. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's worked phenomenally well. We normally, the first day, people go and they put this up, and we get like anywhere from like, I'd say at least 100 people book clients that within minutes and like hours, like that first day. It's so much fun. It's like Christmas because my people start making money because this is such a growing need, and it helps them actually see and believe it. So I'm all excited. I give them the script and they post it, and like cricket. And I'm like, what is going on? Because normally that's when the group like explodes. And then there's the, has anyone gotten anything? And like the no, nothing's working. And I'm like panicking. So I'm like, what is going on? Because I know the demand hasn't changed. So like the externals are all the same. We just did this a few months ago.
Yeah.
And so I went to my friend Rachel Miller, who's like the leading expert on organic Facebook stuff. She just knows it inside out. And I'm like, hey, like I've been doing this, same script, same process, whatever. Nobody's seeing it. Because we had one person who has like 15,000 Instagram followers. And like normally she gets at least 1,000 to 2,000 views on any post. She got like 50. And then I had a couple people say, I can't even post it. Facebook won't let me post it. And what's happened is in the last few months, since I did this last, Facebook has kind of copied Google in that they don't like duplicate content. And so if people are posting the exact same thing overall, if it lets you post it, it just doesn't show it to anybody. Like it just will not put it out there for anyone to see. So it wasn't that like it didn't work. It was that Facebook just wasn't putting it in front. Nobody knew it was happening. So
the algorithm bit you in the butt.
It really bit me in the butt bad. So, okay, so I go into like panic mode because I'm like, okay, this is not proving that it works. This is proving that it doesn't work. And that's a huge problem for my launch. And so I basically rewrote something, and I just told everybody, hey, we're going to talk about the smart, like a couple people got bookings, but like nothing like we should have had. And friends from my mastermind stepped in, like Rachel's in my mastermind. She helped. A few other people stepped in and were like, listen, you've got this. Let's formulate a plan. Don't panic. And it was so amazing to have people there supporting during this time. And I was like, okay, well, let's do this. Rewrote it, told them how to customize it even more so we wouldn't run into the same issue. And people started booking clients, but like I had lost so much momentum in that time. Like, and it's summer, so like people check out, and it was really rough. So we ended up only making about half of what we did the last time we launched. And I'm in a so much better place though, Laura. And I think this is maybe why you asked me about this. But it was so good because I learned, because I was about to evergreen everything. And so like create this funnel based on this challenge. And I would have had no idea that the premise wasn't going to work anymore if I hadn't had this massive like failure. And I mean, it was fine. It's not like we had to let people go from our team, but it was still like, it was like a third of what I was expecting because everything was going great. Everything was working. And it was, yeah. So I don't know which part of that you want me to unpack, but that's the overview of the last launch.
So the part I want to unpack is how did you keep it from feeling negative about yourself?
So coming into this launch, I'm part of a small group of people who are dedicated to prayer. And the word that had kind of been in my heart coming into this season was confidence.
Yeah.
And then somebody prayed it over me, like somebody who's has no idea what I do. Like just totally through intercessory prayer, really felt like they just said, I just feel like the word for this launch is confidence for you and have confidence through this. And after the kind of debacle we had in January, I just started to I think I'm finally, after 8 years, starting to mature a little bit in how I do stuff. And I've started to separate my worth from my results and really just lean into my worth in God, honestly.
Yeah.
And so, I was on top of my quiet times. I was doing self-care and I was praying like mad, like all the way through this. And I just felt that word confidence come back to me over and over and over again. And it was really the healthiest I've ever been in a launch. So like all this stuff is going down and it's happening. And there was a few moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not good. But it was like, okay, confidence, like God's got this. I don't know what's going on. And instead of seeing failure as a reflection of who I am, he started to show me right there in that moment, like, I'm saving you from much heartache in the future. And like, I was going to do, and in fact, I was even going to evergreen before this launch on the same premise. And I didn't. I made the decision to do one more launch that I was going to knock out of the park so I could have space this fall to do other things. And right now I'm so thankful. It was the best thing that ever happened, because now I'm totally redoing how I'm going to market it. And I wouldn't have, I mean, it would have been a much bigger disaster and mess.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. So you are a huge advocate for people creating connection through their personal brand. And even if you're the CEO of a big company, a 7-figure company, 8-figure company, 9-figure company, or you are just getting started and growing and scaling, you are a big proponent of them allowing themselves to be the face of the company and connecting with the people who want to do business with that, or with you and your organization, right? So you have an amazing podcast that speaks to this topic directly. And where they can find that podcast is underneath this video. Is there anything that you would like to leave the viewers with in terms of encouragement for anybody who's hesitant to step into that role?
Yeah. So I went through a lot of questioning, but what I've seen as I've reinvented my business since the pivot is that by being the face of my company and embracing my quirks and not feeling like I had to have this perfect face on, and like, I share the failures. Like my podcast is all about my journey of growing a personal brand, like what's working, what's not. Because I don't really care to sell that. I just want to give it away. So like, it's my pet project, and I want to help. That's how I'm like serving entrepreneurs and helping get the word out about personal brand photography. But I have found that by doing this, even in a year and a half, that I now have a deeper pool of like super fans. I don't know how to explain that, but the way people step up for me and help me and encourage me and like sell for me, like I have a group of over 70 people who are like, I just want to do anything I can to help you for no gain to myself. Like, if you ever need anything, let me know. And so I'm like, join this group, because when I need help, I never remember. But I had so many people just saying, hey, I genuinely just want to get the word out, because what you've taught me has changed my life. And I'm so thankful, and I will share stories, or I will encourage people, whatever. And so I had 70 people who like opted in on their own. They just said, yes, I want in, I'll do this, just to help. Like, I never had that before, like ever. And I feel like I'm genuinely leading a movement of people. And that you can look at my social media numbers. They're kind of lame because I haven't really focused on them. They are, truly. But the results in my business are better than ever. Like, I used to focus on having a ton of likes and like, all the vanity metrics. And it doesn't matter now, because the people that I have are so core that we have a 7-figure business with like, I had people approaching me saying, oh, I can help you get, like, I had somebody pitch me on Instagram, like, I can help you set up your businesses and processes and whatever. And I'm like, well, what can you do for me as a 7-figure business? I know it doesn't look that way, but like, I got a lot of stuff, and they just like ghosted. And I'm like, okay.
Well then, so I'm gonna probably suggest that you have even more super fans after this video. So I'm gonna say, follow Jamie. Listen to what she has to say. She is a pro at connecting with your audience. She's great at encouraging you around becoming the face of your business, overcoming a lot of that trepidation that we probably all feel naturally, and giving you permission to really put yourself out there and your story out there. And just like Jamie just did by saying like, listen, this launch did not go well. This is why, and this is what I learned about myself. That's all what people connect with. It's all what they want to hear from you. And she can teach you how to do that even more than you might already be doing. So follow her podcast, go visit her podcast, say hello to her on social media. Go ahead and like something on Instagram. Maybe she'll say it's less lame that way. I'm not sure. I think it looks good. And thank you for joining me, Jamie. You are always a complete joy.
Oh, thank you, Laura. You're amazing.
All right. And we'll see you next time on the Scale with Joy Summit.